For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.
Hello, welcome to For the Young at Heart. I'm Lucille Jerome. On today's program, we're going to be taking a look at fire safety for senior citizens and their families at home. My guest today is John Pelletier. He's a firefighter and he's got a long title. He is the Public Fire and Life Safety Educator in Kingsborough, Massachusetts. And I'm so glad that he found the time to come today. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you, Lucille,
so
for
much.
having me.
There's so much we can touch base on, and I don't know that we're going to get to everything today, as we were talking earlier.
Absolutely. I mean,
in terms of seniors and their families, what is statistics?
I mean, statistics. Roughly about 15% of the United States population is elderly, and out of that 15% is about 40% of those attributed to fire deaths, which means that out of every fire they have, there's 40%. I mean, 40% of from elderly alone.
Right.
So it's quite a bit.
Right. But they're only 15% of the population.
Correct. So the elderly are much higher at risk.
Right.
From 65 up to statistically showing 65 to 80%. 85 years old. You're at about 4 times the risk. For deaths and fire as a younger age group.
Right.
So
what can we do to help these people? What are the issues involved in terms of safety at home? What are some of these issues?
I mean, some of the things that I would say is educate.
Right.
And a lot of the elderly people say, I've been living here for 50 years. Why do I get to practice this, or why do I get to know this? But as you know, you never know when something's going to happen. Right? And in these day and age, we teach the young kids in school, starting at kindergarten and even preschool, fire safety.
Okay.
And we start that young. And that's why there's less deaths for the younger population than there is the older population.
Okay.
Because they're more aware and they're more attuned to, if they hear a fire alarm, they're more apt to react to it much quicker than somebody who's elderly, because they think, oh, it's just a false alarm. And a lot of elderly live in assisted living or even apartment buildings.
Right.
And the alarms go off quite frequent, and they just tune it out. They don't want to hear it no more. So the alarm goes off. They just, keep watching TV, and they don't find out what the problem is.
Do some of these apartment buildings or assisted livings or nursing homes even, do they have fire safety programs, or do people like you go in there to talk about this?
Great question. In Kingsborough, we don't have any assisted living accommodations or nursing homes. We do have a council on aging, which we have met before. I go and I talk there, try and get there on a quarterly basis. But and that's something that if there is a nursing home, they should have some type of fire safety program, and with an escape plan, meeting places, all that, where their staff and residents know. And if the residents there don't know what it is, they should ask.
Right. I worked in a nursing home for many years, and we did have fire safety programs, and the alarms go in, practicing, a lot of practicing.
Exactly.
So that was good at that home, and I'm assuming it's everywhere too. So there are these statistics, and people might be living in an apartment or an assisted living. What if they're living in their own house? They probably take their own house for granted.
Absolutely, and I actually teach this to the young kids. I say, make it a game. Make it a game. Go in your house tonight when it's dark, blindfold yourself and see if you can get out of your house. That's what I tell the little kids. See if you can get out of your house blindfolded.
Okay.
you think you might know your house, but when
Right.
you're in a pitch dark, do you
Right.
still know your house?
Right.
Because when a fire happens, it's not like the movies where it's all bright and fiery and you can see everything. That's not the case.
Okay.
It's pitch black.
It's pitch
r-
black.
It's
okay.
pitch black. You can't see nothing.
Okay.
So that's why I teach them, try and get out of your house in a dark. And if your house is smoke filled, the same rules apply to young kids or old kids. Crawl low and stay low under the smoke. And I just had a safe trailer at our fire department just recently at our open house. And the light bulb went off for the kids because I've been teaching these kids, crawl low, stay low underneath the smoke. And it never really hit them until we had some fake smoke inside this trailer and it was up on the ceiling. And the light bulb clicked for the kids. They all knew, oh, that's why we say crawl low, stay low under the smoke.
Okay.
And they were able to see, if I get down on my hands and knees, the smoke's up there, the air is a lot more breathable.
Right.
And also the heat, because smoke is hot. That's why it
Right.
rises.
Okay. So that's important for our seniors.
Absolutely.
What was that acronym? That
Crawl
phrase,
low, stay low.
Stay low.
Crawl low, stay
Okay.
low.
Now, some
Correct.
of our seniors are frail. They're a little
Correct.
bit on the frail side. So if they get down and maybe crawl a little bit, maybe it'll be hard for them to get up.
Well, if
I mean, I'm extrapolating here.
Yep, I mean, if there's a smoke condition and they're crawling low and staying low, a fire department's gonna come.
Okay. Okay.
And there's gonna be plenty of people to help them back up to their
Okay.
feet
Okay.
and
Okay.
get that way. So I mean, and while we're on kind of acronyms, crawl low, stay low, another one is stop, drop, and roll.
Okay.
So if you ever catch on fire, and this happens quite frequently where people catch on fire by accident, cooking, and they panic and they just run. And that's like the worst thing they could
That's the
do.
worst thing to do.
So I mean, best case, get down and roll around. Just stop, drop, and roll, just like it says. Another acronym, another part of that we're adding is cover your face by doing
Okay.
this.
Okay.
So stop, drop, cover, and roll. So by covering your face, you're protecting your airway and also your face in case so it doesn't get burned. So your hands have a much, they're tougher than the skin on your face. So stop, drop, cover, and roll. And then if they can't get back up, because they call,
Yeah.
and the fire department
Right.
obviously will be there
Right.
and help them back up.
I'm thinking in terms of cooking. I mean, women, we all wear scarves. That can be a danger if you're cooking.
Absolutely, yep.
Just a little scarf.
And we can go on an entire program on just cooking safety.
cooking
Just
safety.
cooking safety and not wearing,
Okay.
baggy clothes or
Okay.
scarves or things of that nature.
Okay. Well, we can't do 2 programs
Correct.
today, but we will probably have you back if you have the time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so some of these housing issues, and some of these people live in old houses too. They never wanted to move. They're living in an old house, never mind a modern apartment. Living in an old house. What kinds of things might happen in their old house, even though they've been there maybe their whole lives? Maybe they don't know, maybe there's not enough wiring in the house with all the equipment they have nowadays, or
Absolutely. I mean,
something?
with the older, and that's one of the biggest contributors to fires these days, is overloaded electrical systems.
Okay.
Back when the houses were built in 20s, 30s, 40s, they didn't have large screen TVs
Right.
and things that used a lot of electricity.
Right.
So these days, people are putting, strips with 10 outlets on it, and then they're putting a strip into a strip, because they're running out of outlets on the wall. Well, that electrical system wasn't meant to carry that much of a load.
okay,
So before they start adding in too many things, they might want to call a local electrician
okay,
and check to see if that's okay, or if they can add in additional outlets to upgrade their system.
So I'm thinking that for some seniors, maybe some of their family members are watching or listening now, and maybe they're thinking, maybe I need to go check mom's house or grandma's house, and being respectful of the elder, you want to do that very carefully.
Correct.
And somehow honoring them that, this is what's recommended. It's not something I made up, Ma. This is what's being recommended. That we check around. Let's do it together, maybe. That kind of a thing.
On that with there, in my town, and it happens a lot in other towns as well, is if you contact the fire department and also the local council on aging, we can make a home visit a home safety visit, and go out to the house, and then we can look through the house and see if there's anything that we could recommend that they change to make it safer for them.
That's good to know. Do you
Yeah.
think our people know this? Do you think people know that the fire department does this?
I don't think so. I mean, because we don't get called that often. Or the other thing is, a lot of times they think that, oh, if the fire department comes to my house and sees something wrong, they're going to make me move into a home. And that's the
Oh,
absolute
my
last.
gosh.
And they think, there's a lot of people that think that.
Yes, there is.
And that's the furthest thing from the that we want, is to
Yes.
somebody move out of their home.
Right.
We want to, that's your home. You should stay there till the end,
Yeah, as long
And
as you can.
exactly.
But I understand that fear.
Yeah.
I do understand that fear. Sometimes if they come into rehab at a nursing home, some of them might think it's a little bit of a trick to get them
Yeah.
to stay. But that's home.
Exactly.
It's home. It's not
Exactly.
a house or an apartment. It's home.
Absolutely.
So we've been looking at a little bit of that, and when we were talking, because I attended that program, that's why I thought of you to do this program, because you were so good at the senior center with your explaining things like 2 exits.
Exactly.
That's routine. That's everywhere.
Yep.
2 exits.
And knowing 2 ways out is critical. And some people may not have 2 ways out, depending on their living situations. If they're in an apartment building, a single-family home, you should always know 2 ways out. And have a plan from each room. If you're in your kitchen, how do I get out of this room here 2 ways? Your living room, bedroom. And the second way out may not be a traditional exit.
What do you mean?
It might be a window.
Oh,
So it might be a window. And if you happen to live on a 2nd floor, well, if that's the case, then you can close a bedroom door, open up the window, call for help, and wait for help to arrive to assist you out of that window if you
Okay.
can't get out any other ways.
okay.
2 ways out applies everywhere, not just your own home, but a friend's house, if you visit the local council on aging, the mall, the shopping center, everywhere you go, you should always know 2 ways out. As soon as you walk in that door, you should be looking around and finding your next exit.
Okay.
And so the event of an emergency, you know how to get out, even before you even thinking, because you already know where it is. And that happened in many cases. And there's a lot of bad people in this world, and
That's right.
things happened, and fires, people, shootings and
Right,
whatnot,
right.
and they just didn't know the other way out, where they could have used those same tactics that we were
same
just talking about.
tactics.
Crawl low, stay low. Doesn't have to be for fire, but if there's somebody bad and doing bad things,
Right.
they can crawl low and go to that next exit.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't think people think like that in the
Yeah.
everyday world. But this is important information.
Correct.
So you're going to be low, you're going to be underneath the smoke and
Yep.
underneath the heat, and you're going to have
Correct.
2 exits. So those are the beginning steps.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say they call the fire department or the police department. Every town, you at the program that I attended, you mentioned something about the difference between a landline and a cell phone.
Correct.
And people need to know that too, because
Yep.
automatically people might say, well, I got to dial 911.
Correct. So 911 will always get you help no matter what.
Always.
Always, always.
Always.
It may take different amount of times depending on your location. So for instance, I'll explain for Tingsboro. Tingsboro is directly on the border with Nashua.
Right.
So if you're dialing 911 from a cell phone, most times, over 90% of the times, they will contact a New Hampshire cell tower.
Oh,
The New Hampshire cell tower will then transfer you to Concord, New Hampshire State Police. New Hampshire State Police will answer the phone, what's your emergency? You state that you're in Tingsboro, and they look through their list of towns and show that there is no Tingsboro, New Hampshire. It's in Massachusetts.
okay.
They say, hold on, we're going to transfer you and get you some help.
Okay.
They transfer you over to Massachusetts State Police, who then answers the phone, how can we help you, what's your emergency? After they find out what's going on, they will then find out you're in Tingsboro and then transfer you over to Tingsboro Police, who is
Okay.
the dispatcher for fire, medical, and
Okay.
police. And then they'll take the call and then dispatch help at that point in time. That there can take nearly 10 to 15 minutes
Right.
in calls and transferring all that. So what I recommend is, if you don't have a landline, and a landline is a traditional phone that you have in your house where you pick it up and it has the cord,
Sure.
that's a landline. But a lot of people have gotten rid of those because they have a cell phone. There's
Right.
no need to have two phone systems. So they only have a cell phone. So if that's the case, even if you're living in Tewksbury, where you're not next to a border,
Right.
but you're still going to hit a cell tower, which is going to transfer you to Massachusetts State Police, and then they go and transfer them back over
Okay.
to Tewksbury. So then if you want to just cut out the middleman, call your local police and fire stations and get their direct landline number, their direct number.
Okay.
And then you can program that into your cell phone so that in the event of an emergency, you can call that number direct and just remove the middleman. So it's
Okay.
much faster.
Okay.
And adding on top of that, the reason being is, and I said this before, is that fire grows and doubles in size every 30 seconds. So if you think about a fire that's the size of a basketball, in 30 seconds it now is the size of a beach ball.
Okay.
A minute and a half from there, it's the size of almost half the room. And then 2 minutes is the size the entire room,
Okay.
which could have been that time
Right.
that you were on hold
Right,
or
right,
being
right, right,
transferred.
right.
So if you can call directly and cut out that middleman, you can reduce probably 2 to 2.5 minutes of time for emergency responders coming to your house.
So that's what you're recommending for people in general, not just Kingsborough, but
Correct,
in
in
general.
general.
In general.
I mean, in my personal cell
Right.
phone, I have a list of all local towns, local around this
Okay.
area, or where I travel frequent, of their local numbers. So
Okay.
in the event of an emergency, I can call directly to that particular
Okay. Okay. And that's if you have a cell phone. Is that also the landline phone too?
It would work if you have a landline phone
okay.
and you have those numbers posted in
Right.
your house. It would absolutely
Okay.
still work.
So bottom line, that is the quicker way, and you're cutting out the middle.
Correct,
in the
with the
ge-
cell,
general.
with the
Okay,
cell phone.
great, with the cell phone.
Obviously, landline by far, if you
Right.
have a landline in your home,
Yeah.
you dial 911, that's the quickest
Okay,
way, but
Okay, but the cell phone.
cell
And
phones are
you're
different.
right, a lot of people have done away with the landline and just have the cell phone.
Correct.
Now, when people, this is not something maybe you know, when people buy a cell phone, is that information provided to them that this is what they should be doing?
No, it is
No,
not.
this is, okay,
No,
okay. Well, we're providing that right now.
correct.
And
Yep.
every time people like you do programs at the senior centers or in the community, I'm sure that's one of your topics, because I do remember that from the
Yes.
program I attended. Okay, so smoke detectors, that's the next thing. Keeping
That's-
smoke detectors and the batteries up to date. And
Exactly. So here's a great analogy that I use with the kids, and I try and I push on the kids and elderly people too. It's like if you have a gallon of milk in your fridge, and it's past expiration by a week, you gonna drink that milk?
Not me.
Okay. So smoke alarms also expire. So they expire and they are recommended that you change them every 10 years,
Okay,
and carbon monoxide alarms every 7 years.
okay.
Without going into too much of technical things, it's just the things that decay and they go bad over years.
Okay.
So it's important to have working smoke alarms and also carbon monoxide alarms in the house. And you should test them every month. The battery in today's newer batteries, they last a little bit longer than the older batteries. So they're saying that you should change your batteries at least once a year. Myself personally, I recommend that you change them twice a year. And the way to remember that is when you change your clocks,
Yeah.
spring ahead, fall back.
right,
When you
right.
change your clocks, change your batteries.
Yeah.
That way you know for sure that you have good batteries in your smoke alarms. And people may say, well, I have hardwired smoke alarms. So
That's right.
I have hardwired, so I
Yeah.
don't need batteries.
Yeah.
So when does the worst things always happen? When we have a storm and there's no electricity.
Right.
So when you have no electricity, if you have bad batteries in your smoke alarms, they're not going to work.
That's right.
So that's why it's important to keep good batteries in your smoke alarms. And then additionally, change them every 10 years.
Okay.
And I can guarantee you that 85+% of the audience listening, their smoke alarms are probably over 10 years old.
Yeah, probably.
And that's why currently right now, Massachusetts has mandated that when somebody sells their house, that those smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms are up to date.
Okay.
So in essence,
Okay.
forcing people to change them for the
Yeah.
new owners coming in.
Right. Okay, well, there's always a telltale sign, too, if you haven't changed your batteries.
Exactly. And,
There's a
and it
little-
always happens at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you
Yes.
always hear that little chirp.
Yeah.
And,
Where'd that bird come from?
Exactly. So you hear a little low battery alarm, and it'll be a chirp, and it happens every so often. And then after a while, the chirp will get increasingly shorter in time and duration. And after that, unfortunately, sometimes some smoke alarms will just start going into alarm, and other ones will just completely die. So you don't want to get to that point
Right,
where, you know, if you hear that sound there, you know, try and have somebody change it. You know, family member or whatnot. In my town, for the elderly, if they have the batteries, you know, I will go out and change them for them.
Okay. And every town has some similar program, and they may have some various things going on too, that if people were to
Correct.
call their town.
Yep, they just need
They-
to call
they
their
just
local
call.
council on aging
Right.
or their fire department and see
Right.
what programs are offered.
Right.
And there's many other fire departments that will
Sure.
go out there and
Sure.
and change the batteries for the seniors.
Yeah, because
in the
some seniors have no family anymore.
Exactly.
You know,
yeah.
they don't. Sometimes they're the last one in the family. So twice a year, you're saying,
I
you
re-
recommend.
I personally recommend, and this is what they used to recommend up until a year or two ago, is change your batteries twice a year. So when you change your clocks, you change your batteries.
Right.
Now they're recommending, they're saying every year, because batteries with the lithium batteries, they
okay,
last longer.
They last longer.
So if you have a long-lasting lithium battery, once a year would probably
Okay.
suffice. But if you have just a regular Duracell copper top, you know,
Yeah.
alkaline batteries,
Yeah.
change them twice a year.
Okay.
And carbon monoxide is very important too.
Right.
And I just want to touch a little bit on carbon monoxide because
Sure.
that's just as dangerous as, or more dangerous than smoke.
Okay.
Because with carbon monoxide, it's a colorless, odorless gas. And it's caused from unburned fossil fuels. So you ask, what is that? So
Yeah,
that's
right,
oil,
right.
you know, if you have a oil burner in your house or even gas, propane, any gases, even if you have a garage that's attached to your house. So if you have
Okay.
your, you know, some people, and this has happened quite frequent too, where people start their vehicle with a remote starter and it's inside the garage. And
With
they-
the garage door closed?
Correct.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's happened too, and carbon monoxide
Okay.
can, you know, so that's gasoline, that's
That's
unburned
right,
fossil
that's right.
fuels.
Okay.
And so that can leak into the house. So, and a lot of times you won't smell it. You won't smell the carbon monoxide, but the carbon monoxide alarms will detect it. And usually, depending on the version, will roughly about 75 parts per million, which is way lower of a threshold than people would get sick.
Okay.
But they set it really low so that you can find the source
Right.
and
right.
get it corrected. And it, you know, so with that, it's important to get your furnaces and boilers
Right.
serviced, you know, annually.
Right.
Make sure that they're working
Right.
in good order.
Well, sometimes seniors try to save money on things too. You know, they rob Peter to baby pay Paul, and maybe they let something slide like that. But not just seniors, anybody.
Yes.
Anybody.
And it's
might
not.
do
And it's
that.
not a.
Yeah.
There's no price for your life.
Right.
know.
Right. I'm just thinking sometimes the gas stove.
Exactly.
If they don't turn it off entirely or
Yeah.
something, you can get that little smell.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so the smell that you smell in gas,
Mm-hmm.
the smell is a special chemical that they put into it. So gas itself, natural gas, has no odor.
Okay.
So the smell that you smell is an actual chemical that the gas company puts into it to make it smell, so people can detect it. But
You said something about being low, you know, and crawling. Something about doors being closed
Correct.
or open, and why
Yeah.
is that important for
So-
people to understand?
So another thing that we're adding into fire safety, and then even with the young children and anybody, is, and there's a campaign that's out there about closing your doors at night. When you're going to bed, close your door, and any doors if possible. So in the event of a fire, a door itself will usually stem back the fire or smoke. And
Okay.
most times, people don't die from the fire, they die from the smoke. You know, so if you have a house that doesn't have any working smoke alarms, and it catches fire, the smoke's going to come up into your bedroom,
Right.
and you won't even wake up. You'll
You'll die in your sleep?
yeah, you die in your sleep.
Okay.
And use it from the carbon monoxide
It's the carbon monoxide.
and the other poisonous gases
Yeah.
in the fire.
Okay.
But so if you close your doors,
Mm-hmm.
it will give you that chance. And if you have smoke alarms, now you know that something's going on,
Right.
and you'll be able to escape easier. And
Mhm.
closing doors, even when you leave your house, say you make it, you get down the stairs, you make it out your house, shut your front door, shut all the doors when possible leaving. So
Okay.
now it makes a compartment. It just kind of just traps everything in.
So it's
the
like in a
fire
box in a
exactly.
way.
So the
Okay.
fire can't travel through every single room.
Okay.
So it'll just be contained to that one area.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
one of the things that fire needs is oxygen. So if you can starve the fire,
Right.
you can
right,
stop
right,
it from
right.
growing.
Okay.
So a lot of times, people leave their, exit their house, leave their front door open, and the fire just pulls in the air and just doubles in size every 30 seconds.
Okay.
But if you can stop that and close doors,
Yeah,
it will
yeah,
stop
yeah.
the fire from growing.
That was interesting. Well, this whole thing is interesting. But the way you said the fire spreads in the time period, how quickly it goes.
Correct.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Or if I knew it, I blocked it out of my mind.
Yeah, I mean, and it's today's furnitures and everything is made out of plastics, which is made out of oil. That's what it is. It's a petroleum-based product. So, I mean, your lamps, your couch, and your couches, there's not real leather no more. It's
Right.
pleather. It's the
Okay.
fake leather, and
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
petroleum-based products, and
Okay.
everything is plastic.
We're going to be winding down pretty soon. I'm just wondering, we've talked about a lot of things, and we haven't covered everything.
Absolutely
We
not. I
haven't
mean,
everything.
I will be seeing you again.
Yes, we will. Yes,
But-
we will. Thank you. I'm so glad you're going to be able to do that. I'm just thinking about the people who smoke in bed. That just came into my head. Not a
Correct.
good thing
I
to
mean,
do.
Absolutely no. I mean, if for those smokers that are out there, obviously I recommend, everybody try and quit smoking. That's the best thing
Yeah.
to do is try and quit.
Yeah.
Try your hardest. Even if
Yeah.
you say, well, I've been smoking for 50 years, whatever,
Right.
I'm still here, I'm not going to quit or whatever, give it a try.
Yeah.
I mean, if not for you, for your family,
family.
and
Yeah.
and just go that way. But if you are going to smoke, don't do it in bed. Do it, if you can, do it outside and have a proper receptacle.
Right.
And not near the house. Okay, we about 4 years ago in Tingsboro, we actually had a person who had a 5-gallon bucket outside their house, sand bucket, and they just put all their smoking materials in there. Well, after about 1,200 cigarettes, it just piled up and made a
Okay.
fire. So they put one cigarette on top, lit all the
Yeah.
other filters on fire, caught the
Okay.
vinyl siding on fire, and lit the house on fire. So I mean,
Oh, yeah.
so you want to make sure it's away from the house, and obviously if you can't leave the house, do it safely with
Do
an
it safely
ashtray
in the house
and
with
not
an
using
ashtray.
oxygen.
Right.
That's
Another one.
that's
That's another one.
yeah.
So stay low, 2 exits.
Crawl low, stay
Crawl
low.
low, stay low. 2 exits, no matter where you are.
No matter where you go.
where you are.
Correct.
Okay? And call your local fire station or police station, get information about your particular town.
Correct.
What's being offered.
Correct.
And I want to thank you so much for coming today. I
glad-
knew it was going to fly by. I
Yes,
knew it would fly
absolutely.
by. There's so much to talk about.
Absolutely. I will look
know.
forward to the next visit,
Yeah.
and talk about more. And
Okay.
I encourage any of your viewers, if they have any questions, email you, and then we can talk
Okay.
about that next time.
All right. Thank you.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
again. And thank you for
Take care.
watching. Bye-bye.
For the Young at Heart is sponsored by Duville Life and Wellness Community, a commitment to care, a legacy of compassion. This is Duville.